Before we even take a breath or dive into the rabbit hole, I have to say this right up front. This podcast is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes.
Extremely important to get that established right out of the gate.
Absolutely. Now, I want to start today by asking you, yes, you listening right now, to pull up a memory. And I don't mean just a vague recollection. I want you to really sit with this. Have you ever had a dream that was so incredibly vivid, so textured? I'm talking about being able to feel the grit on the pavement under your feet, or the humidity in the air, or the specific smell of a room, that when you finally woke up, you had this profound split second of absolute confusion.
Oh, yeah. That moment of total disorientation.
Right, like you weren't sure if you had just woken up into reality or if you had actually just fallen asleep out of that life and into this one.
Where the bedroom walls look fake for a second. A nearly universal human experience, but we usually, we brush it off before breakfast.
We brush it off, we say, wow, weird dream, and we go make coffee. But that feeling where the real world feels like the illusion for a second. Well, today we are diving into a stack of papers that suggest that feeling might be more accurate than we dare to admit. We are looking at a philosophy that says you aren't just hallucinating when you close your eyes, you are commuting.
It is a radical shift in perspective. And today is special because we aren't looking at modern sleep studies, we aren't looking at current neuroscience, and we aren't looking at pop psychology. We're going back to the source.
We are going way back. We are cracking open session 95 of the early sessions, book 3 of the Seth Material.
Recorded on October 7, 1964.
1964. Let's set the stage here because context matters.
Yeah.
I mean, really matters. We aren't in a sterile lab or a university lecture hall. We are in a living room in Elmira, New York.
Right. It's Wednesday night, 9 p.m.
You've got Jane Roberts, who is this writer, poet, a very sharp intellect. Definitely not someone who suffers fools lightly. And you have her husband, Robert, but Seth calls him Joseph.
And on this particular night, they have two witnesses sitting in the living room with them, John Bradley and Bill McDonald.
Yeah, and I just find it so interesting to visualize the domesticity of it all. It grounds the high strangeness of what happens next.
It really does. You can almost imagine the scene. Maybe the smell of stale cigarette smoke,
Yeah.
the clinking of coffee cups, the rustle of paper.
Exactly. It's totally normal. Jane is in the kitchen making coffee 1 minute, maybe complaining about the upstate New York weather, getting the ashtrays ready.
And then boom.
Boom, at 9:00 p.m. sharp. The dynamic shifts. She takes off her glasses, her voice drops an octave, her mannerisms change completely, and she starts channeling a multidimensional entity named Seth.
And what comes through in this specific session 95, is, well, heavy is an understatement. It's foundational. It really does challenge the very bedrock of how we perceive our daily lives.
It's heavy, it's chilling, but it's also strangely liberating. Our mission today is to explore Seth's assertions that time is a total construct, that our dreams are independent realities that exist without us, and this is the big one, that we are absolutely, positively not puppets of fate.
There is a very strong message of autonomy here. It challenges that victim mentality we often slip into. It says, you are in the driver's seat, even if you don't remember getting the license.
Huge. And before we dive in, we have to give credit where it's due. This material comes to us from the early sessions, published by the New Awareness Network.
And a central resource for anyone studying consciousness. You really should check them out.
So let's unpack this. The session kicks off with the witnesses, John and Bill. Now, imagine being these guys. You're sitting there, watching your friend Jane essentially vanish, and this other personality take over.
Right. And they decide to ask some pretty heady questions about beginnings and endings.
Which is such a human question to ask, isn't it?
It's the most natural place for us to start. We are obsessed with linear narratives. We love timelines, birth and death, start and finish, alpha and omega.
Our entire society is built on the clock and the calendar. We need to know when things start so we know when they end.
But Seth isn't having it. He doesn't just disagree with the premise. He completely dismantles the question itself.
How does he do that? Where does he even begin?
Well, he immediately moves to deconstruct the entire concept of linear time. He starts with a premise that sounds like physics. It echoes the first law of thermodynamics, but he takes it much deeper into metaphysics.
Okay.
He argues that everything is composed of energy. And a fundamental law of that energy is that it cannot be withdrawn. It can only be changed in form.
Okay, hold on. Let's really drill down on this. If energy can't be destroyed or withdrawn, then nothing can ever truly end. Is that the logic he's using?
That's the core of it, yes. It can contract, it can expand, it can change its shape or its frequency, but it cannot cease to be.
Which honestly is great news for procrastinators.
Chuckles! How so?
Well, if nothing ever truly ends, then technically I never miss that deadline. I change the form of my productivity into rest. The project isn't late, it's just in a different energetic state.
I don't know if your boss will accept the cosmic energy transformation excuse, but metaphysically, you aren't wrong.
I'll try it next time.
But Seth goes further than just the physics of it. He brings up a poem that Jane Roberts wrote when she was just 17 years old.
17, wow. I was writing very bad, angst-filled song lyrics at 17, probably about rain and breakups. What was she writing?
She wrote a line, and Seth quotes it directly. The line is, "The end overshadows the beginning."
Ooh, the end overshadows the beginning. That gives me goosebumps. It feels circular. It feels like the snake eating its own tail.
Exactly. And Seth points this out to show that even as a teenager, Jane, or Rupert, as he calls her entity name, intuitively understood that time isn't a straight line where A leads to B, which leads to C. She sensed that the end was already casting a shadow back onto the beginning.
Because they exist at the same time.
Precisely. This brings us to the core concept of what he calls the spacious present.
The spacious present. I love that term. It sounds like a really nice, open concept living room. But what does it actually mean in practice? How do you get your head around that?
Okay, well, imagine a house. In our normal view of time, we walk through the house with a flashlight in the dark. We see the hallway. That's the past. Then we see the living room. That's the present.
Okay.
We haven't seen the kitchen yet, so we think the kitchen doesn't exist yet. That's the future. We think the living room is the only thing that actually is because that's where our little beam of light is.
Okay, I follow. We are limited by the beam of the flashlight, our focused awareness.
The spacious present is someone turning on the overhead lights. You suddenly realize the hallway, the living room, and the kitchen all exist simultaneously.
Yeah.
You can walk between them freely. The hallway didn't disappear just because you walked out of it.
It's all just there.
It's all there.
Yeah.
Seth says, and I'm quoting here, "Energy is self-perpetuating. In ultimate terms, there is and never was a beginning."
There never was a beginning. That breaks my brain a little bit. It implies there is no Big Bang start point, or if there was, it's still happening right now.
It strains the intellect, as Seth admits. Our brains are wired for what he calls camouflage reality, the physical world where we need cause and effect to survive.
Of course.
If a tiger is chasing you, you need linear time. You need to know that running now leads to safety later. But in the deeper reality, everything is happening at once.
So let's play this out. Let's take that idea to its logical conclusion. If nothing ends and everything is happening now, that means every version of me that has ever existed still exists.
Yes, that is the implication.
So the awkward teenager version of me with the bad haircut and the braces, he's not gone. He's not just a memory trace in my neurons.
According to this, he is still there, living that reality, experiencing those emotions in the spacious present.
That is horrifying and amazing, but mostly horrifying. I thought I buried that guy.
It's chilling in a way, isn't it? We tend to think of our past selves as shedding skin, dead and gone. We treat the past like a graveyard. But Seth implies they are eternal components of our total identity. We just shift our focus away from them.
So we're like that flashlight beam moving across a dark room. Just because the light moves off the chair, the past event, doesn't mean the chair stopped existing. It's still sitting there in the dark.
Precisely. The past event has durability, as he puts it. It stays there.
Okay, so if we can't escape our past because it's not actually past, what about when we go to sleep? Because that feels like an ending. The day ends, I close my eyes, fade to black, silence. Then I wake up. It feels like a cut in the film.
A very clean cut.
Yeah. And that brings us to the second major pillar of this session, which might be even more disruptive than the time concept, the independent reality of dreams.
So this is where the spooky vibe really kicks in for me.
Me too.
Seth is very adamant here. He says we view dreams as these fleeting internal hallucinations. You know, smoke and mirrors that vanish when we wake up. We say, it was just a dream.
Right, meaning it had no substance. It was just brain static, random neurons firing off while the system reboots.
Exactly. But Seth argues, and again, I'm quoting, a dream does not then begin and end. Only your awareness of a dream begins and ends.
Where my awareness ends. So the dream continues without me.
Think of it like this. You live in a city, let's say New York. When you take a trip to London, does your apartment in New York cease to exist just because you aren't standing in it?
No, obviously not. It's still there, waiting for me. The rats are probably throwing a party, but the walls are still there.
Seth is saying the dream world is exactly like that. It has durability. It is a valid, structured plane of existence. When you wake up, you are simply leaving town. You are shifting your focus back to the physical plane.
Wow.
But the dream world, it keeps running, the environment persists, the characters persist.
That is wild. So somewhere in the dream plane, there's a version of me. What?
Yeah.
Just hanging out. Does he have a job? Does he have a mortgage I don't know about? Because I cannot afford 2 mortgages.
It's entirely possible. Seth mentions that we pick up threads in the dream world. He says the beginnings of our dreams reach back into past lives and even into a heritage before this planet existed.
Wait, back up. Before the planet existed.
Yes, that's what he says. He suggests that consciousness predates the physical Earth. So when we dream, we might be tapping into a lineage of selfhood that is incredibly ancient. We aren't just processing the day's events, we are maintaining inner communication with the whole self.
So sleep isn't just recharging the batteries, it's a board meeting.
In a way, yes. It's shifting focus to another office. You clock out of the physical reality job and clock into the dream reality job.
And that's necessary.
Seth suggests this shifting of focus is necessary for our psychological health. If we were locked in physical reality 24/7 without that break, we couldn't handle it. The input is too intense.
It makes you wonder, though, if that world is durable, and this world is durable, and we just flip back and forth, are we sure this one is the real one?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it? Seth calls the physical world camouflage. It's intense, it's vivid, but it's a construct designed for a specific kind of learning. The dream world might actually be closer to the true nature of the self because it's less bound by linear time and physical space. Man. Okay, so we have time that doesn't end and dreams that don't disappear. This all begs the big question. Where did all this energy come from? How did it start, if there is no beginning?
He anticipates that question. Seth addresses this origin story. And he does it without getting religious in the traditional sense, though he does use the word God.
Yeah, looking at the transcript, he seems to use God and energy and all that is almost interchangeably, right?
He does. He defines God, or all that is, as a psychic gestalt of energy. A gestalt meaning a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. And he describes the primary law of this universe, the driving force behind everything.
The compulsion to be.
Yes. The one main and ultimate attribute or characteristic of this infinite energy is the compulsion to be. I want to drill down on that word, the compulsion to be, not the decision to be, the compulsion.
It's a crucial distinction, and he makes it for a reason. A decision implies a guy with a white beard sitting on a cloud, weighing the pros and cons of creating a universe.
Right. Should I make a platypus today? Why not?
Chuckles. Let's throw in some mosquitoes, shake things up, see how they react.
Yeah.
A decision implies choice and deliberation. But Seth says it wasn't a choice like that. It was a striving. It was an inevitable unfolding.
Pressure building up, an internal necessity.
I think a good analogy is a great artist. Someone like Van Gogh or Beethoven. If you locked them in a room with no canvas, they'd paint on the walls. If you took their paint, they'd use dirt.
They can't not create.
They have to create. It's not a choice. It's a necessity of their nature. If they don't express it, they might implode.
So the universe exists because energy just couldn't help itself. It had to materialize. It had to become.
It had to explore its own possibilities. It had to manifest. And that trickles all the way down to us. We are parts of that energy. We have that same compulsion to exist, to experience, to create. We aren't here because we were sent here. We are here because we pushed to be here. We are the result of that divine pressure to exist.
Which brings us to the part of the session that really caused some debate in the room back in 1964. The witnesses, John and Bill, were struggling with the idea of free will.
Yes, the no puppets segment. And honestly, this is arguably the most important practical takeaway from this session for anyone listening who feels stuck or powerless in their life.
Because the setup is tricky. We have this entity, which is like our soul or our higher self, and then we have the personality, which is us right here, right now, in this moment.
Correct. The entity is the whole, the complete consciousness. The personality is the fragment projected into 1964, or into 2024.
So the natural question is, if the entity is the big boss and I'm just the projection, am I just a puppet? Is the entity pulling my strings? Because sometimes it really feels like that. Life throws things at you that you did not ask for.
And Seth's answer is firm. It's an absolute no. He says, there is here no puppet, and there is no hand that moves the strings.
No strings at all.
None. He explains the dynamic like this. The entity projects the personality into the physical plane. It equips the personality with tools, senses, instincts, defense mechanisms, everything it needs to survive.
Like sending a soldier into the field with a full kit. Backpack, map, everything they need.
Or perhaps a better analogy, sending a child off to college.
Yeah.
You pay the tuition, you buy them the laptop, you pack the car with instant noodles and bedding. But once they drive off that
You
driveway,
have to let go.
you must let go. Seth says the entity essentially adopts a hands-off policy.
But why? That seems crazy. If the entity is so smart and multidimensional, why wouldn't it stop me from making a huge mistake? Like, hey, don't date that person, or don't take that job, or don't invest in those NFTs.
Because of what he calls the paradox of non-interference. Even if the entity knows the personality is about to walk right off a cliff, it cannot interfere.
That seems cruel. If I saw my kid walking off a cliff, I'd grab them.
It seems cruel to us because we want safety. We prioritize safety above almost everything. But the entity wants something different. It wants value fulfillment,
Value fulfillment.
which is another way of saying experience. Raw, unfiltered, messy experience.
So safety and growth aren't the same thing. In fact, they might be opposites.
They often are. If the entity pulled the strings, the world might be perfect. No mistakes, no pain, no bad dates. But it would be pointless. It would be a movie where nothing happens.
Because no learning would happen, no real growth.
Exactly. You can't learn to walk if someone carries you everywhere. You can't learn resilience if you never fail.
Yeah.
You can't learn compassion if you're never hurt.
So the entity is like the ultimate free-range parent.
The ultimate free-range parent. It's watching you date the wrong person, knowing it's going to be a complete disaster, but thinking, well, they're going to learn a lot about boundaries from this. This is going to be excellent data for the soul.
This is going to be great material for his autobiography later.
Precisely. Seth says if there were strings, we wouldn't have complete as possible existence within all facets. We are here to manipulate reality, to test it, to break it, and to learn from the consequences.
So we have total free will, but I feel like there's a catch coming.
There is always a twist with Seth, a subtle but important one.
Okay, what is it?
There is one thing we cannot choose,
And what's that?
the only constraint. You cannot choose not to experience.
Okay, unpack that. He says the personality must gain experience, and it cannot choose otherwise. What does that mean in practical terms?
This is fascinating because it addresses the ultimate escape hatch that we think we have, suicide.
Yeah, Seth touches on this, and it's a heavy topic, but his take is purely mechanical. It's not judgmental, it's just the mechanics of consciousness.
Right. He notes that no infant commits suicide. It's impossible because they aren't fully oriented yet. But an adult who commits suicide, they don't escape experience. They have still gained experience.
You can't delete yourself from existence.
No, you can't hit undo. Even the act of trying to end your experience is, in itself, an experience that the soul integrates.
It's like the energy we talked about earlier. It can't be withdrawn. You can change the form from alive to dead, but you are still you, and you are still experiencing, just in a different context.
It removes the escape fantasy of death. But it also reinforces that our core purpose is simply to be, to learn. The quality of the experience, good or bad, is less important than the fact of the experience itself.
And that learning continues through what we call reincarnation, but Seth has a very different take on that too, doesn't he?
He really dislikes the traditional view of karma.
Yeah, he's not into the whole crime and punishment ladder, right? Like, you were a bad person in your last life, so you come back as a cockroach.
Right. He says karma isn't punishment at all. It's about adopting purposes most in keeping with his own needs.
So I choose my next life based on what I need to learn, not on how much trouble I'm in with some cosmic judge.
Exactly. He describes it as concentric circles of development, not a ladder of higher and lower. We are expanding outward, exploring different facets of being, not climbing up some spiritual hierarchy.
He feels much more collaborative, like I'm designing a curriculum for my own soul.
It puts the agency right back in your hands. You aren't a victim of the universe. You are a co-creator of your reality.
Okay, so up until now, this has been very philosophical, very high level. Time is a circle, dreams are real, free will is absolute. But then Seth does something that just yanks it all down to earth.
He drops the mic.
He absolutely does. The V prediction.
This is the part where the hair stands up on my arms. Because it's one thing to talk about the nature of God. It's a completely different thing to gossip about the neighbors.
Chuckles. It really is. It grounds the material instantly. It pulls it out of the clouds and onto the sidewalk.
So let's give the context. Back in session 63, which was months before this one, Seth had told John Bradley, the witness, that he saw trouble brewing for a neighbor of his back in Williamsport, Pennsylvania.
And he was specific.
Very specific.
Yeah.
He mentioned a woman, 2 children, and the letter V.
V. And John Bradley at the time was like, I don't know any V, nothing is happening, kind of brush it off.
And in this session 95, John admits he still hasn't heard anything. He says he's been on vacation, so he's been out of the loop.
But Seth interrupts him. He says, essentially, oh no, it happened.
He confirms the events took place, and then he tells John to go check the back issues of the local newspaper when he gets home.
Imagine being told by a disembodied entity to go check the newspaper because you missed the neighborhood drama while you were on vacation. It's just stunning.
It's a stunning moment of verification. It reminds everyone in that room, and us reading it now, that Seth isn't just generating philosophy. He claims to have access to the spacious present. He can see physical events occurring remotely, in real time.
It changes the vibe completely. It's not just theory anymore. It implies that everything he's saying about the durability of reality and time is, well, true. He's watching the neighbors.
And he's right. The V was likely an initial or some other detail that John would recognize later when he saw the story. It validates the spacious present. If Seth can see the V neighbor's situation in the present moment while he's sitting in a living room in Elmira, then time and space really aren't a barrier for him.
It's the ultimate I told you so.
It is. But it's done with such casualness. Check the papers. Like he's reminding him to pick up milk on the way home.
So after all this, what does this all mean for us? For the listener driving to work right now, or folding laundry, or walking the dog, what's the takeaway?
I think the biggest takeaway is that you are so much bigger than you think you are.
Unpack that. What do you mean by bigger?
I mean, we spend so much time feeling small, feeling trapped by time. I'm getting too old. I missed my chance. Feeling trapped by circumstances. Why is this happening to me?
I'm just a puppet and my strings are being pulled by someone else.
Exactly. But Seth is saying, no. You are an eternal energy gestalt. Your past is still alive. You can draw strength and wisdom from it. Your dreams are real estate you own in another dimension. And you are here in this life because you have a compulsion to be here. You chose the struggle because you wanted the experience.
It reframes everything. The traffic jam isn't a punishment. It's texture. It's data.
It's value fulfillment. Hard to see it in the moment, I know.
Very hard. But the idea that I'm trusted, that my entity trusts me enough to let me make a complete mess of things, is actually really empowering.
It is the ultimate vote of confidence from your own soul.
So we've covered the myth of endings, the reality of dreams, the compulsion to be, and the absolute nature of our free will.
A dense session. Really dense hour of talking.
The deepest of dives.
Indeed.
I want to leave you with a thought. A provocative final thought to mull over tonight as you get ready for bed.
Go for it.
If Seth is right, if your dream world is as real and durable as this one, and if you have been building it for lifetimes, who are you when you close your eyes tonight?
That is the question. Who are you over there?
And are you sure? Are you absolutely sure that this isn't the dream?
Might just be the sleeping avatars of a dreamer somewhere else.
No, there is a thought to keep you up at night. Or I guess to make you eager to go to sleep.
To go to work.
Exactly. Honey, I'm going to the office. Snort.
I love it.
If you want to go deeper, and honestly you should, because we only scratched the surface of session 95, you need to read the source material for yourself.
It is dense, it is surprising, and it is worth every minute of your time.
You can find the early sessions and all the Seth books at the New Awareness Network website. Go to sethcenter.com, the early sessions.
Please support the publishers who work so hard to keep this material alive and available.
Absolutely. Thank you for diving in with us. Stay curious, stay durable.
And remember, the end overshadows the beginning.
See you in the spacious present.